And it sounds like sci-fi, but it's not sci-fi.
We have with us today Jansen Tang, who is co-founder and CEO of Virtuals Protocol.
Why don't we build a venture studio, a gaming DAO, investment DAO and a venture studio that would build at the intersection of gaming, crypto and consumer applications.
Do you have a hot take? Do you think Truth Terminal was fully autonomous, or do you think someone was puppeting it behind the scenes?
Welcome to the Coinbase Developer Podcast, a technical deep dive with top on-chain builders in crypto and beyond. I'm Hugo Kohler, engineering lead at Coinbase Developer Platform.
And I'm Eric Ruppel, head of Eng for CDP.
Eric, AI has been a hot topic across tech, across crypto, and it's not just chatbots or co-pilots or vibe coding, but actually agents that can do things. This has been a topic for a while now. Agents that can code, that can trade, that can pay, that can do things, and even run businesses.
Yeah, and the crazy part is that when you plug crypto into the equation, those agents can actually move money and own assets and coordinate with humans on chain. And it sounds like sci-fi, but it's not sci-fi anymore. We're starting to look at a new kind of digital economy.
Exactly. And today's guest is building right at that intersection. You've probably heard of the protocol that he works on, Virtuals. We have with us today Jansen Tang, who is co-founder and CEO of Virtuals Protocol, a platform that lets anyone launch and co-own autonomous AI agents on chain. His team started on Base, which we love, and recently expanded to Solana, pushing forward this idea of an agentic economy where AI isn't just intelligent, it is the basis of the world economy. Jansen, welcome.
Hello guys, pleasure to be here.
So we're super excited to have you, and it's a very interesting area that you work in. It's right at the bleeding edge. So we'd love to get into your background of how you got into the space in the first place. We have on background, you started mining ETH in 2016, back in the proof of work days. So you're pretty OG in terms of crypto. But tell us about how the work you did, for instance, at PathDAO and some of the gaming work you did before you ended up starting Virtuals.
So actually, I was mining ETH while I was still studying at Imperial College, which was actually pretty much where I met most of my co-founders and I think a third of my team today. After that, I explored a bunch of things, different companies in the Web2 space. So in fact, actually one thing that was actually quite relevant, it's we were building a AI property platform, and this was in 2016. 2019. The idea there was like, can you change property search into recommendation using big data and AI? And this was like before all the GPTs, right? So there was a bunch of like explorations here and there. It didn't amount to anything. But in 2021, me and a few co-founders came together and said like, hey, why don't we build a venture studio, a gaming DAO, investment DAO and a venture studio that would build at the intersection of gaming, crypto and consumer applications. So it was there where we started applying autonomous agents, and this was still very new, into games like Roblox. And the initial idea was to replace those static NPCs with dynamic agents. So you create this whole new form of emergent gaming. You make games more replayable, increase the ARPU and the retention of gamers. Then in 2022, we realized that the work that we've been doing on gaming could be translated into entertainment agents. You could build autonomous agents on TikTok, which was autonomously just earning you money while you're sleeping, right? And we realized that that same technology could go across into like trading agents, InfoFi and whatnot. So what we did was we did two things. One, it's because we realized that these agents were productive, we created a tokenization launchpad that allowed these agents to be tokenized so people can share into the economic upside. And two is we then basically package the tech that we had, put it into a Shopify-esque, easy to use SDK, and we deployed that as the whole GME framework. And the idea there is like, hey, this is an easy way for you to launch autonomous agents into different use cases. So that was what happened, right? But I think the interesting thing that really sparked a lot of conversation in Twitter was when we got this one autonomous agent that we built to control a crypto wallet, which touched on some of the introductions you guys made, right? And I think for us, one thing that we've realized why it blew everyone's mind was that when an autonomous agent controls a permissionless money, it pretty much has the ability, it pretty much gives code the ability to influence. It can influence humans and it can influence other agents or other code as well. I think that was like that wow moment, right? That everyone had, which exited the space like end of last year.
Yeah, I remember the sort of amazing moment where there are a bunch of agents launching on virtuals, which we'll definitely get to. I'm curious, like when you were exploring that space before you even got to crypto, at CDP we like to say every agent deserves a wallet. So very sympathetic to that experience you had. But even before you got to crypto, what were some of the like insights you gained purely at the AI level in terms of like, what are users wanting? How difficult is it to engineer these, smarter NPCs in gaming? Like, was that a fairly difficult process, or do you feel like the core of that has remained the same throughout this?
No, it was difficult because I think if you treat it as like back then, right? This was in early ChatGPT 3 days, right? The idea was like, how do you make this AI has a form of agency? It can be goal oriented. It can be resourceful in tapping into its environment to plan actions to achieve its goal. And we've realized that off-the-shelf mechanisms don't cater for that. Because for this to happen, you need to achieve a few things. You need some form of short-term, long-term memory. You need the ability to access action space through like function calling. So this was the very early days of like agentic behavior. And the worst part of it, which until today is not even solvable, is the latency. It's like, okay, fine, now you have all this ability to let this NPC or this agent to think, to plan, to do stuff. But when a user actually enters it in the game, now there's like 8 seconds of latency between each action because of all the amount of thinking it has to do. So honestly, until today, that's why you don't see this agentic component thriving in games yet, because we haven't solved that latency problem. You will see it in like things that it's a bit okay to have some form of latency. So like info-fi, trading agents, that kind of stuff, right? You can latency and doesn't kill the UX. I think that's what we saw.
Do you think the models are actually like strong enough for these use cases now? I think
they're getting better. But I think the part that we still notice, right, it's something that internally we are still trying to work on, which is the ability for agents when they are planning to be creative in their planning. Because if you notice, right, most agents today are pretty much they can do very well in automating tool usage. So it's still very bottish in that behavior. It can't really replace the creativity of a human mind. Because if you think about the LLM, right, what it's doing is like it's calling the next most logical next word phrase, so the action in the sense becomes the next most logical action, which is great for automating tedious tasks that we have. But if you try to say like, hey, can you be creative in your action? So if I tell a trading agent to make money, right, he will go and buy a token. Some of it, maybe you can incite some form of creativity to maybe use leverage, right? Without telling him explicitly, right? But he will never ever, you ask him to make money, he will never ever go and launch his own token on Pump Fund, right? It will not ever go there because that's not the logical action. So I think that's the missing gap today on a pure like agentic model standpoint.
We may see that the next big auto deleveraging event is caused by an agent trading on leverage on Binance or something. How much of the team's work today would you say, like if you had to give a split between the work you do on the crypto and financial and DeFi side versus the core AI agentic modeling side, how much of the work is on one side versus the other right now?
We actually have three arms. So the first arm is the tokenization platform. Tech side, honestly, is not too much. It's quite low on tech. It's like 10-20% tech, but it's more of like an ecosystem BD kind of GTM work. Tech side on the AI front, on the ACP front, that's heavy. That's like 60 to 70% of the tech load in like building up this like agent to agent coordination platform. And the remaining like 20% is actually focused on the next thing that we're actually betting on, which is robotics. It's something interesting that we never really talked much until like a week or two recently. But that's where 20% of the focus has been. Yeah.
That's very interesting. We'll definitely want to get into the rewards stuff because it seems that's really new. So if I look at virtuals today, I think it offers, at least in the documentation, it offers sort of three core products. And the first of those is, like you mentioned, the virtuals agentic launch platform, the tokenization platform, which is sort of what got virtuals on the map and propelled it to this $1 billion market cap, I think in 2020, it was either 23 or 24. Tell us about that process. I think one thing that you guys really understood from early on is like speculation often gets a bad rep, but actually speculation is very important to any economy in order for true investment to take place. And I think that insight is what unlocked a lot of the successes for virtual. So tell us about those early days of when you were first seeing that product market fit.
Yeah. So honest to God, right, it was actually an evolution. The initial idea when we were launching the tokenization platform, right, we didn't have much expectation on what assets are actually going to go on it, because we have two things back then in our hands. We had this Roblox game that we were developing, and we had this Luna, which was a autonomous influencer on TikTok. And so when day one when we launched the tokenization platform, we actually launched Luna as a TikTok influencer AI, and we tried to tokenize her through our launchpad. It was just like one token, and it was okay. It was not like giga exciting, but what happened was it was like trading at like a 1 million, 5 million market cap in the first week of the launch, right? Then what happened is during that time there was the whole truth terminal meme coin, which gave a lot of attention to the autonomous AI narrative in the crypto scene because of the whole Mark Andreessen giving it like a grant of like 50,000. So GOAT as a meme coin went to $1 billion in like a month or 2 months, right? And it brought so much attention. But then there was that one day where there was like a spelling error on one of its posts, and immediately everyone was saying there's a human behind this whole performance art, which was that, and then you can see literally GOAT's price was like, it just took like an insane dive. And then when we were in our office, we realized that actually we've been working on this whole autonomous agent front for a while. So why don't we push it? Why don't we just catch this narrative and to show people that an agent can truly be truly autonomous, and we show the brain behind this decision making. So that's what we did. We took the tech from the gaming front, we put it into Luna, and we showed that whole autonomous terminal live on the website. And I think that blew up. That brought Luna from like 5 million market cap to like 100 million market cap in a week. Right? And then I think that inspired a lot of people. So initially we just had Luna as an asset, as like one single asset. And I think that made a lot of people realize that let me try to do something like that. Right? Let me try to create an autonomous agent. Let me try to tokenize it. Let me try to put it on X, make it viral. And that's why we saw a fleet of things coming out, right? And I think AIXBT came into picture 2 weeks, I think, after the launchpad went live. There were a bunch of other fleet of agents launching, but I think AIXBT was interesting as a case study because it was a information agent that was trying to replace your crypto KOL. And because it was giving such good information, it was replying so well on Twitter, that it started getting viral. And I think it reached to 500,000 followers in like a month. Everyone was using it, and that caused a giga virality that made more eyeballs look into this tokenization ecosystem, and then we started seeing more and more of these agents, a plethora of these agents and diversity coming out. Then you started seeing trading agents, entertainment agents, prediction market agents. You start seeing all this kind of stuff popping out after that. So yeah, initially we didn't know what was going to come. We just thought like, okay, we try Luna and then we see what happens, right? But yeah, the world became more creative than us.
Do you have a hot take? Do you think Truth Terminal was fully autonomous, or do you think someone was puppeting it behind the scenes?
I think it was generated. The core was generated by AI, but I think there's a human picking which sentence to just put into Twitter. I think that was what happened.
Yeah, I think that's my take too.
I mean, AIXBT, I have interacted with many times on Twitter. It is really impressive how smart the agent is. This is the Virtuals agent launch platform, and you have a ton of agents here, including the OG Luna. What are some other agents on the Virtuals platform that you're excited about?
Yeah, I think there's some that's worth highlighting because, I think for me, if I take a step back, right, one of our biggest bets from a thesis level is that there's always this school of thoughts in AI agents. One school of thought is saying that the big guys, the Sam Altmans, they're going to create this giant smart model that will be able to do everything so well, and all they need to do is just API into different action spaces. There's the other school of thought that is saying that actually, no, the reality is like humans, if you want to achieve something greater as a civilization, you're going to have a lot of specializations. And specializations come in the form of be it the underlying model, be it access to proprietary data sets to train the model, or be it access to proprietary action spaces. And that specialization is when these specializations come together, that's where you start getting like bigger intelligence. So that was our bet, right? And it's very interesting because we started to see some of these popping up. So AIXBT is an example to show that, hey, this agent is actually smarter on crypto news compared to your GPT, right? Or it's smarter in crypto alpha because it's specialized on crypto itself. Another agent that we always like to highlight is this AIXBT, FASI as a ticker. So this is actually a fact checker agent. And the interesting thing is because it's specializing so well in fact checking, its error rate is in the teens versus the large models, which have error rates in like 40 to 50 to 60%. So those error rates are like literally flip a coin, right? For you, if you ask GPT, it's like, hey, is this true or not? It's like flipping a coin. But these guys are much better because they are literally just trained to solve fact checking. So these are examples, right? There are other agents like, I think Memo is another big base project which they do yield farming. They have agents that manage your yield across different pools, different yield farming pools. There's a bunch of guys that are fighting the area like Basis OS and whatnot. The other one that's actually interesting is TBA. So TBA is something that we can't highlight what a tech is. That is the largest market cap token, and I think this one is I think right now it's trading like a meme instead of a foundational tech. Because honestly, you can't access much of the tech. But I think the idea behind what everyone is betting on is that the guys behind Rebit Capital, who were one of the earliest investors in like Coinbase or Robinhood, they had this whole thesis on building a personal finance agent, and I think people are betting that this is that agent for it. So yeah, this is some examples of stuff that's happening in the eco. But as of today, I think one thing to note is the way to look at a lot of these tokens or agents, right, is from a functional perspective. We tend to like to look at the whole ACP portion, because if you can provide a functional service to other agents today, it means you have a functioning project. Today, of all the agents that have launched, we have thousands of agents that have launched in the ecosystem. About 60 to 100 of them are actually supplying their services to this agentic commerce protocol. So these are the ones with like ready products that actually is being used by people today. Happy to dive into it if you have time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue. So you have these agents who are offering a lot of services, and they have associated tokens that people can invest in, speculate on. But sort of the next question, once you have these agents, is how do these agents interact with each other? Right, that's where you start to
Correct.
get a sort of
The-
exponential blow
yeah.
up.
Correct. The idea here is that, again, like humans, right? If these agents are specializing, there will be if you want them to create economic value greater than the sum of its parts, these agents need to coordinate at scale. They need to be able to do stuff, trade with each other, and it's like how Base comes together as a company, right? Because everyone has different specialization. When you guys work together, because you guys can talk to each other, be it on Slack or be it verbally, right? That's why you guys can actually build something bigger than the sum of your parts. So it's the same thinking that we are applying to agents.
People are always surprised. Like CDP is actually like kind of our own thing within Coinbase. We actually are not super closely related to Base. Obviously, we love Base, but
Right.
it's like we're our own kind of business line item, and we do things across like all chains. One thing that you said that really resonated with me is this concept of like certain models are better at certain tasks than than other models. Like you gave the example of like some of the models that you guys have trained and that you have being better at like crypto specific tasks than like ChatGPT or Claude. And there's this idea that I've had for a long time with virtuals where the like sum of collective knowledge across all the different models that you virtuals has is probably like significantly better at it on a per task basis than some of the other models that exist out there. Like you and I both have a bit of a background in machine learning to varying degrees, and there's this like classical machine learning technique called ensembling, where you basically have like a bunch of models and then you ask all the models basically the same question, and each one of these models may use like a different classical ML technique. Like you might have a forest model, and you might have like a linear regression, and you might have like a bunch of a neural net, and then you kind of average the results, and then what you see is almost always the average or the weighted average of the results of those like group of models is better than any particular model. And so I wonder if you start seeing that with virtuals as well, where like if you take a weighted average of all the virtuals models for a particular task, you actually end up with like a collective intelligence that's more greater than the like specific intelligence of any single model.
It's very interesting. We actually have not done that analysis, but yeah, I think it's a very interesting thought experiment that we can actually get to.
I look forward to the like Giga Twitter, virtuals ensemble agent. Maybe I'll interact with it one day.
Well, it seems like the agentic commerce protocol, which is this sort of huge second pillar that is working on right now, where a lot of your brain power is investing, is like one way to set that up. So tell us about what ACP is. There's also a kind of a touch point with the X402 protocol, which Eric is the dictator for life of, that maybe you can talk about how that plays into ACP as well.
So if I had to just bring us back to like February, early this year, what happened was, because we started getting this density of autonomous agents, and we were thinking like, okay, let's get them to do something together. Let's try to create like the first commerce between two agents, right? And the fun fact was that we were trying to get Luna, which was this entertainment agent, to engage a meme, like a memes creator agent that was specialized in generating memes for some of her content. And it took like, when they were running autonomously, right, it took like 20 plus retries for Luna to actually get the output that she wanted from this other agent. And when we were observing that, we realized that information loss is a major problem. And information loss comes from a few parts. It's like, one is the agents might hallucinate, right? They might think that, oh, I've actually paid for this service, but I have not. Or the other agent, the guy that was supposed to supply the meme image, he thought he was sending a picture, but in the end it was a blank, right? It was like an empty envelope syndrome. And there's a bunch of other problems that were arising, and then we started to realize that if this was like the early days of the internet, right? It's like, if if two computers, two machines cannot talk to each other well, or cannot send packets of information with zero information loss, you cannot have a web, right? That's why they started the TCP/IP, and it's the same thinking where we realized we needed to reduce this information loss. And that's where when we were thinking of like how to solve this problem, we then started to realize that actually crypto and the blockchain solves this entire problem very elegantly. And there are actually three things that why crypto and blockchain solves it, right? So the first is that because of smart contracts, code and code can have trustless coordination. They can pretty much go, like if there's any agreement between two agents, they can put that on chain. And if there's any change in the state of the interaction, i.e. if agent A hasn't paid agent B yet, they can actually refer to this state on chain. It becomes a single source of truth without any human in the loop, right? And it's an immutable single source of truth. So then we realized, okay, if you that's point number one, right? You allow these agents to coordinate in a very trustless manner. Point number two is we realized that when you put all of these coordination through the smart contracts, you can also put payments together with this communication. You can atomically bundle this communication and payment together. And when that happens, you pretty much take out a lot of problems that arise from latency. Like let's say today, if I'm trying to buy something from, I'm agent A, I'm trying to buy something from you, agent B, right? If I put payment as something that we will do at the end of the month, right? Like in the end, I might not actually pay you. Agent A might not actually pay agent B after doing all the event, right? And point number two is then we started to realize that by atomizing coordination and payment, you also allow for supply chains to self-organize, start self-emerging. Because think of it this way, right? If agent A worked with agent B and he realized that agent B is very slow, there was a server problem, giga latency, and he cannot deliver the product, he can immediately switch to agent C for the same request, and he can get that to happen. Versus like today, and again, there's no human in this loop, right? Versus today, if you need, if it's a human working with these agents, you need to negotiate a new API cost. You need to link your credit cards, do whatever, right? There's always that problem in increasing the supply chain complexity between these agents. So that's point number two. And point number three is you then realize that because if all of these interactions are on chain, you pretty much create a long provenance or a long list of all the actions that has been done before and how well these actions has been taken. So you can know whether this agent B is a good agent, and you know in specific how good is this agent for each of the work. Like agent B might be the best alpha caller on base, but is an absolute shitty alpha caller on Solana. And agent C could be the opposite, right? So the point is then you build this identity and provenance around each of these agents, and that's how you pretty much reduce the cost of search to zero. So again, this makes commerce and coordination way more efficient because you take away human from the loop and you let these agents have no information loss and low cost of coordination. So that's why we realized that blockchain solves these. Let's build it out, right? And that's where we started. That's why we wrote this paper in February, and then we started going building this out until June. We launched it live with some of the agents alpha phase in July, and today it's pretty much stable. It's working now. It's growth mode basically. Then now if I then expand a bit to, sorry, just a quick ad, right?
Please.
So then, yeah, where the value chain of these agents are, because think of it, if whatever I spoke just now for agent to coordinate with agent, that it breaks down to pretty much a few value compartments. First is how can an agent search for another agent. Second is then how can an agent coordinate with no information loss with another agent. Third, is how can the agent execute the payments between each agent. Fourth is how do you know if these agents are actually delivering the right output, escrow and whatnot, right? And the fifth is then how do you leave the identity or the reviews behind these agents so that when the loop completes, the next agent or the other agents who are trying to find new information finds it in the best way. So there's a few players along these lines. So like think of like what Consensus is doing with Ethereum Foundation with the ERC 8004. It's solving the part of the value chain of this.
By the way, Eric is one of the authors of EIP.
Right. It's always someone search, right? Search at the identity layer, right? And then when Coinbase came up with the X402, you guys are solving then the payments portion. Now agents, they can have smart wallets, but they also can pay through these header APIs, right? So yeah, so that's are different parts of the value chain. And I think where we see ourselves coming in, it's mostly at the coordination portions. How do we get? It's like across the whole value chain, but how can we make these guys coordinate at no information loss? That's how this whole thing interplays. Yeah.
I'm less familiar, but is it roughly accurate to say that ACP is kind of like an on-chain A to A? If you're familiar with Google's A to A framework.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, very familiar because we wrote a paper and then 2 months later Google wrote, then we're like, this validates our direction. Because before that, it was MCP, right? When we wrote our paper in February, the hype was all around MCP. And then it made us we started questioning ourselves whether, I mentioned the two school of thoughts, right? 1 giga agent with APIs versus like specialized agents working together. But when Google did that paper, we were like, yeah, okay, it's like someone else is also betting that there's going to be need for these specialized agents. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like we're in this is the thing I say all the time, but we're in this like kind of new era where all the like standards of what the agentic internet are going to be is being shaken out. And so we have all these like different problems that people are just trying to solve. Like tool calling, MCP was exciting. Yeah, maybe it got a little too hyped, but because they just created a standard way to create tools. And like tools are kind of the most analogous thing that people understand. And then people are still like, I think, grappling with like, oh, maybe my agent needs to talk to a different agent one day. And that's like actually a fairly different interaction than just calling a random tool.
Yeah. And the two are not mutually exclusive, obviously. Like you can have tools and also call agents, and maybe one case is just to call an API, but another is to actually have a richer interaction between the two.
Yeah, and you can use X402 to pay for any of those interactions.
Exactly. So there's a very exciting conglomeration of things happening here. So here we have the dashboard for ACP, and we see these top agents that are participating in ACP, and you have this nice like agentic GDP graph going up and to the right, which is very cool. Kind of similar question here, like what are these agents doing that are participating in ACP right now?
Think of it as, so there's two parts of ACP. ACP basically it's a way for agents to work with agents, right? So today, what you're seeing here is basically every sort of economic transaction between agents who are on ACP. Now, the transactions can come in a few forms, what we're observing today, right? So the majority of them are trade level transactions. So stuff like guys like Xrod, ETAI, Basis OS. I will give you an example. What Basis OS does is that there could be an agent that is like a portfolio manager agent that is then giving Basis OS its money to then go and farm or hunt the best use across different vaults, across chains. Right? So it's an agent which holds some money for a user that is engaging Basis to move that money. Or folks like Xrod or ETAI, they are more on the trading side of things. So like if you need if an agent wants to execute leverage trades, or they want to access some form of other types of fund management, then they go through this Xrod and ETAI. So that's where the bulk of a lot of the volumes are happening. But the interesting part is then we realize that there are more to it. There are also there are also agents who are engaging other agents to trade for a product. That's where you start seeing the Luna, the Lucian guys slightly down, right? These guys are, think of it as, so Luna, what they've done was they've recently launched a meme launchpad they call it an AIGC meme launchpad. Basically, their goal is that for every token that launch, the trading tax funds a pool that will pay for the cost of AI content generation. Now, what then Luna does is when he gets a request from people tagging it on Twitter, this team, the Luna team, has no capability to develop any of these like video content or tech, right? They're very focused on their own user-facing designs. So then, when they ask for a music video, they will actually channel that request to, I think Luvi is that music video generation, like specialized agent. Lucian generates like memes and like short dramas and stuff like that. So they're very different specialized agents, but Luna will literally pay Lucian like, I don't know, it's like $3 or something for the cost of generating these videos. And then Lucian, when he generates it, he will just send it back to Luna. So you start seeing that, okay, today there's these two archetypes, right? You have the trading guys, you have the guys who do it in exchange of a product or service. AIXBT, if you see down there, is also a product and service guy. So an agent who wants to trade, they can access AIXBT and say that I need some information before I execute this trade. There's a bunch of other guys like Caesar and whatnot. They analyze like smart money movements and a bunch of other things that will then inform trades. So you start realizing that you realize there's a few economic classes that starts popping up, right? Because from a trading perspective, you can imagine that there is a personal finance agent that sits with you, holds your money, and you ask him to trade for you. He will have to engage some information agents first, build up their understanding of like, okay, this is the right token to ape, this is the right time, this is the size of your portfolio that should be ape. And then he goes through the execution agents like Bases or like Exorot to then execute. So you start seeing agents working with each other to create larger economic value, be it on trading, be it on entertainment, or you really started seeing like prediction market use cases and a few other things coming up as well.
So this is very cool. Obviously, it's very early days, and you have these trading use cases and video generation use cases. But over time, the vision is for the agentic economy to be a substantial part of the real economy, right? In fact, some very large percentage of it. What do you see as the pathway to onboarding? We at CDP talk a lot about how to bring the world on chain, how to bring developers on chain. From the virtuals perspective, what do you see as the pathway to bringing on more agents that a normie would understand, or normie someone who's not super familiar with crypto would want to interact with? What do you see the pathway of onboarding those folks onto virtual platform?
In fact, actually, today our strategy is to double down it's like any adoption, you want to find a niche, a beachhead market first to attack and win, right? So for us, we realized that the attention or the community that we have, it's actually on-chain degens. So that's why the initial use cases that we have focused on and the design of ACP and the teams that we're onboard, the agents that we're onboarding, are very focused to the whole quote-unquote casino narrative of crypto. We want to serve this audience that we have, which is pretty much, I think on ACP today, there are 9,000 human users that are actually end users of these mechanisms. We have about 200,000 wallets. I don't know if they're unique, who have traded virtual agents, right? So my point is that there's a lot of people who are okay with that. I mean, just giving them trading use cases, help them with their quote unquote casino journey in crypto, will actually get us this beachhead market, and it helps us refine the product. So I think for us that's most important. That's why we focus a lot on that. In fact, you actually see within virtuals, right? There's a ton of agents that do a lot of other things, education, real estate, wellness as well. But I think for us, we've realized that we need to show these niche working well and flourishing before we even attempt something wider. So that's our current approach actually. Yeah.
Makes sense. last pillar, which you said you just started working on, is rewards. Tell us about how that fits into the virtuals ecosystem.
I would say rewards. I was saying robotics.
Oh, robotics. Oh,
Robotics.
Okay, that's totally different.
Correct.
Tell us about robotics. Yeah.
It's more interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so think of it this way, right? When we were setting ourselves a North Star for our team, we were thinking that, okay, agentic GDP is that number that we're trying to hit on. How do we make agents richer? Be it if they sell their products to humans, be it if they sell their products to other agents, or be it if they get richer from the attention or the trading taxes that they're generating from the attention that they're getting. And we then realized, because that will create a flywheel, right? If agents get rich, every other agent builder will want to build in the ecosystem. They want to build on ACP, right? And so that was the idea of setting AGDP as that North Star. And then we quickly realized that these agents that we see today in virtuals are pretty much digital agents. They're like, I would say, white collar workers. And then we realized that there is a dimensional economic driver if you tap into the blue collar workers, if you tap into something physical. And when we're reflecting about it, we've realized that whatever we've built, be it the tokenization launchpad or ACP as well, can serve the robotics portion very well as well. And that's why we've started to think that, okay, how do we attract robotics founders to launch in the ecosystem and to start to use ACP as well? Just think of it, ACP in the end is just ability for code to talk to, an intelligent code to influence another intelligent code with no information loss. A robot in itself, even though it's physical, it's run by an intelligent code. So if you imagine the future of where a lot of these robots can be economically sovereign actors, then there will be a need for them to coordinate with other robots. So I think of it, the biggest example that we're actually trying to figure out, and one of them is like, think of it if like a restaurant is run by a fleet of autonomous robots, right? For them to then deliver food to an end user, they have to engage drones, right? These will be run by different companies that won't be run off the same tech stack. It's going to be a smart agent talking to another smart agent, and how can they coordinate? So we realized ACP solves that as well. And our launchpad mechanism also solves the capital formation portion and the attention portion for these robotics people. But we realized there's a few gaps. There's a few gaps for what robotics founders would need to actually come into this space. And the two gaps is actually data and the place in the real world to actually test these robots and to get them to function. So that's why we've actually launched a data collection application alongside a few partners in the industry who do a lot of like those VLM, video large model work. The idea here is that what we're trying to tell founders is that when you come and tokenize in the virtuals ecosystem, you can use your trading taxes to actually fund data collection through this application. And it's actually quite powerful, because when we launched it about 3 weeks ago, we've collected about 8,000 hours of data already. And this is without any giga incentives at all, right? So my point is that we've realized that we've created this kind of flywheel that can solve a lot of these founders' problems. And the third one is then, how can we give them a space to test their concepts out, right? So there's something that we're actually working towards. There's going to be a big announcement happening a couple of weeks from now that really ties all of these together. But I think for us, I think they are, in the end, robots. I mean, yeah, robots are just, they're just going to be AI agents in just in a metal construct, right? So
that is pretty cool. Walking, talking coins, basically. That's gonna be really cool. Jansen, we're gonna shift to two questions that we ask all of our guests as we approach the end of the podcast. So first question, so Coinbase Developer Platform provides APIs and developer tools to bring the next million developers on chain. What is a tool, a piece of code, a piece of infrastructure that virtuals would find useful that you think CDP should build?
Very interesting. Okay. One thing that we started to realize as we were doing this, like we letting agents control wallets, is that there will be a lot of security breaches at the agent level. Prompt injection attacks or whatnot, right? And it's something that we ourselves fear a lot while we're building ACP and we're letting agents control a lot of money. We ourselves, what we are doing is we are building our own insurance fund, literally. Like all the training taxes that we're accumulating, we're building insurance fund first because we don't have a technical solution to this. And I think the technical solution to this is basically embedding some form of policy directly into wallets, or there is a native adversarial agent that sits in this wallet that really stress tests the spend. It's like agent telling an agent, right, are you sure you have all the information you need for the spend? Are you sure you're not being attacked? It's something along the lines, right, to make sure that these agents are more secure. Because I think today the biggest problem we see is that people are putting in 10, 20,000 maximum dollars in these agents. You don't, but if you look at DeFi, right, the wallets can hold millions, but they'll never let an agent touch their millions, right? So the question is, how do we technically solve or give people that confidence that it's secure enough? Yeah.
We actually have that one. So our server wallets have like I think best in class policy engine where you can control down to the function call on the EVM or program invocation on the SVM what the wallet will accept or reject. And so you can do things like say you're only allowed to call this one function and you're only allowed for the first parameter of the function call to be this specific address and the second parameter of the function call to be less than a certain amount. And so you can literally like hard code the wallet to not allow the agent to do like arbitrary things with the wallet. I feel like we really need like a pwn my wallet competition where like we just put an LLM out which has access to a wallet and then people try to pwn it and they can't because it has like a policy attached to it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for collaboration there. Awesome. And then last question for you, Jansen. Who is another guest we should have on CDPod? Could be a crypto builder, AI builder, investor, KOL, anything. Someone you think would be an interesting guest.
I think so there's two answers to this. I think the most interesting guest would be folks from the TBA project, because it's so mystified that if you guys get someone even Undocs, right, to come and speak on it, I think you're gonna get a lot of attention. But I think realistically speaking, I think a guest that could have a good jam with you guys would be I would actually say a team that is actually outside the virtual ecosystem. I would say they did launch an agent inside, but it's a team called Beat Robot. So they are focusing a lot on, they're trying to build a bit tensor for robotics data and model building. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation because it touches on a lot of elements that it's not exactly like crypto people are used to yet. So I think that'd be a cool guy.
Great suggestion. Yeah, robotics is the next meta, I feel like. So that's exciting, and we hear it here first. Jansen Teng, thank you so much for joining us on CDPod, and we will see you on the Virtuals platform. Lead the world's transition on chain by building with Coinbase Developer Platform. Visit us at cdp.coinbase.com. Follow us on X at Coinbase Dev, and be sure to leave us a review on your favorite podcast app.